Hi students. In class today I introduced the concept of psychoanalytic theory, and the reason for introducing this concept is because we're moving into a new portion of the course where we're looking for different kinds of theoretical or critical frames through which we can engage literature. Primarily this semester we've been doing what would be considered biographical criticism, where I've been telling you a little bit about an author, about their life, about some of the major events that happened to them over the course of their lives, and then we've been attempting to kind of read their books, read their writing through our understanding of their lives. And that's partially a useful way to, or kind of a useful way to look at literature, but there are other really important critical frameworks that you're going to need to become familiar with if you're going to be pursuing literature in an academic environment throughout your university career. So today I began to introduce the concept of psychoanalytic theory. And psychoanalytic theory is a lot of things, but what it essentially is, and what you need to understand it as, is a way to engage literature that asks us to consider certain basic human tendencies, certain basic psychological realities for the characters that we may find in our texts. And so today I introduced two basic concepts that fall under psychoanalytic theory, and those concepts are the theory of the Oedipal complex and the oceanic experience. And both of these are what are known as Freudian concepts. And Sigmund Freud, as many of you know, is kind of the great-grandfather of psychoanalysis. And we're thinking about these two particular theories in terms of Frankenstein and some other texts because they give us a really good way of helping us understand why certain characters act as they do, or maybe a way to explain why certain characters act the way they do. On the web page below you'll see a detailed kind of 10-point explanation of the Oedipal complex, but what it essentially breaks down to is the notion that human beings are always trying to organize and structure their world in a way so that it's so that it removes all the confusion from everyday life. And there are things that we do to try to structure our lives, and we might look at those things and call and consider them habits. What are the habits that we have? What are the things that we do repeatedly, and why do we do them? Under the Oedipal complex, Freud tells us that we're constantly trying to get back to this state of total kind of narcissistic bliss, where everything around us seems to make sense and everything around us seems to relate to who we think we are and what it is we want to do in really obvious ways. And we thought about how some characters in some of the books that we've read this semester may be attempting to achieve that level of self-satisfaction. Now, when you hear about the Oedipal complex, what you have probably heard in the past is that theory about how everyone wants to, murder their father and marry their mother, which is a really superficial way of looking at it, and not necessarily an accurate way, although Freud does talk about that in his writings. But the main point is that if we look at the habits people develop and we think about why they have these habits, one explanation Freud says for habits is that we have them so that they organize our world for us, so that our world is predictable and so that there's as little chaos or struggle in our world as possible. And he identifies that as a fundamental human need. Now, you can argue about whether or not you agree with Freud, and I'm certainly not saying he's correct or incorrect here, but if we begin to approach books through that way and start to consider novels and plots and character interactions through the Oedipal complex, we might gain some really valuable insights into the books that we're reading. For example, it does provide us an answer for why Robinson Crusoe is constantly creating goods and baskets and chairs and tables when he's on this island, long after he needs any more baskets or tables or chairs. Why does he follow a very strict, regimented schedule every day? Well, we can read his actions through the Oedipal complex and we can come up with explanations. We can also think about Victor Frankenstein, and why is it that Victor Frankenstein is so kind of determined to be miserable, some of us noticed. And what we may be thinking about is maybe he's taking actions that will specifically make him miserable, because maybe in some twisted way he feels that by being miserable he can make his world as orderly as possible. Now, that's a fairly controversial reading of the book, and it may not even be that accurate, but what I want you to understand is you can use this basic theory, which I've outlined before underneath this blog post, to engage literature in a much more useful way, I think, than simply saying, well, this book is this way because Daniel Defoe, liked to ride on boats, or Mary Shelley, was sad some of the time. So if we think about that, and we think about some of these other theories that I'll be introducing to you over the next few classes, you may find that there are very interesting, intriguing, and useful ways to encounter literature that we have not attempted before. So that's, in a very small nutshell, the Oedipal complex, and a little bit about the oceanic experience, but that should be enough to get you started in your thinking and in your researching. All right, well, I'll see you next time. Bye.